What's up, everybody? Welcome back to Pens and Tea, and the very first Q&A that we've done in like 100,000 years. I don't do Q&As very often because it's a shocking amount of work, and they don't get as many views. So, but who knows? Because I only do them like once a year, it seems. Maybe this one will be popular. So all of these questions I asked from people on my Patreon. There's 60 of you beautiful human beings over there. So I have a ton of questions. So I'm going to try and get through all of them. It may have to be a two-parter video. Who knows? But let's find out. So if you want to be included in videos like this coming up, do check out my Patreon account. Q&As, giveaways, early posts, lots of cool behind the stuff steens going on over there. So grab a cup of tea, grab whatever you want. I will probably go make a cup of tea halfway through this, so you may see me even put on a sweater. I just finished my breakfast. It is 9 o'clock in the morning, so I don't feel like tea right now because I just finished coffee. And you're gonna hear Parker meow in the background because she's silent for like an hour and a half until I hit record, and then she's all like, talk to me, Mom. So the very first question that I got was from Fiona Skillen, and I have all of the questions on my iPad here. It says, if you could have just 5 fountain pens and 5 inks, what would you go for? So I put a little bit of a cap on this question in that the 5 pens and 5 inks I have to own currently, because otherwise that list could be like, who knows? So I chose 5, and I purposely left 1 out because it's going to answer the second question, but I chose 5, and these are them here. So from on this side, I don't know if that's your left or my left anyways, we got the Platinum 3776, we've got the Leonardo Momento Zero Prugna, we've got the Aurora Optima, we've got the Pilot Custom 823 and the Pilot Custom Heritage 912 with the Falcon Nib and Ebonite feed. That is particular. So these 5 pens are the ones that I probably rotate through the most. This one, the Falcon Nib with the Ebonite, that Ebonite feed made all the difference. Custom 823, I don't know why I like this so much. This has a medium nib, but I just adore it. So I love that quite a bit. And then the Aurora Optima was actually the first pen I ever got custom ground, and it was a mistake. Long story short, I ordered a fine from Nibsmith. They did not have the fine. There was some sort of like inventory error, but he said I have the medium, but I can grind it down to a fine if you want. And I said, hey, can you actually make it a medium fine and make it super wet? And he did. So that's that one. This one I got from Emmy over at penventure.com. It's an extra fine nib, and he's made it super, super, super wet, and I absolutely adore it. It fits perfectly in my hand. It is very quickly becoming one of my all-time favorites. And then this one was one of my first gold nibs ever. And I always put Diatramentis Cola in it, so it smells like it. And there's just something special about it. There's nothing like absolutely outstanding to this pen, but I just love it so much. So those are the 5 pens I would pick. Like I said, for those of you who know me a lot, you probably are like, hey, there's a pen missing that you talk about all the time. Yes, there is. I included that in number 2. So the 5 inks that I chose, basically I went with my favorite 3 that pretty much I will always have in my collection because I use them all the time. And then for the other 2, one of them I chose on purpose because it's just like a mess around play with fun ink, and then the other one, well, I'll talk about it then. So top 5, Leonardo Mont Blanc James Purdy & Son single malt. You guys know it is my favorite ink, of course, because it's a limited edition, but I have a full bottle still. I did buy another one before it disappeared. Diamine Writer's Blood, absolutely outstanding. I love it. I have Pilot Iroshizuku Tsukiyo, Also, absolutely outstanding. I love it. It's actually one of my favorite inks to put in. Actually, my top 5 inks and my top 5 pens tend to go together. James Purdy & Son tends to go in this pen. Tsukio tends to go in this pen. Rider's Blood tends to go in this pen. And then the other ink that I chose is Diamine Polar Glow. This is going to go more into question number 2 because it tends to go into a specific pen as well. But I fell in love with this ink over the holidays. I just adore it. And then the 5th one isn't necessarily a favorite ink in the sense that I will always have it inked up at the time. But it is my favorite ink to mess around with, to play with, to just have like a fun experience and not necessarily like, I just adore the color. And that is Sailor 224. So those are the top 5 pens I chose and the top 5 inks. So thank you, Fiona. Robert Myers said, what pen brings a smile to you when you write with them? What's your favorite pen/ink combination for the major brands? I'm not going to go into every major brand because, whoa, that's a lot. And to be honest, I haven't used every major brand. But I mean, based on the top 5, like the first question I just did, the top 5 inks and the top 5 pens, that kind of covers the main ones. But when you said, like the first part of your question, what pen brings a smile to your face when you write with them, that is the pen that I left out of my top 5, and that is the Kaweco Sport. So I like to pair specifically this cyan one with the Diamine Polar Glow. There's just something about this pen, and this pen and I, not this one in particular, but just this Kaweco Sport, we have been through a journey together. Long story short, since this is going to be a long video, I had a Kaweco Sport way back in the day, like one of the first ones I ever bought. Liked it a lot, used it a fair amount, and then went into my more snobby phase of fountain pen collecting where I thought, this is a beginner pen. I've outgrown that. I don't need that trash in my life anymore. Give me the good stuff. Fine wine only, baby. Heck yeah. And then I realized I was being ridiculous and picked up the Kaweco Sport again, along with a couple pens that I have, like the Pilot Metro and stuff like that. And I just love it so much. Again, sort of like the 377.6. There's no one reason why I can say I love it a lot. I love the feel. I love the sounds. I love just the way that it sits in my hand. I love holding it. I don't know. There's so many things, but it just pleases me so much. So this is the pen that just makes me smile whenever I pick it up, especially when I pair it with an awesome ink. So Bianca Andrews, she actually has 2 questions. So one, what are your favorite tea companies and / in your opinion, who makes the best Earl Grey? My favorite Earl Grey to drink is probably Earl Grey Supreme by Harney & Sons. But the one I probably drink the most often is just Twinings Earl Grey. But to be honest, I've stepped outside of black teas for quite some time. I do still have some Earl Grey in my collection. I have a new favorite tea. Sorry, my nose is itchy all of a sudden. As soon as I started this video, my nose started getting itchy, so I was trying to ignore it, and I couldn't do it. I do have a new favorite teas by Tea Force. It's actually located in my local mall. They make a ginger peach tea that I'm fascinated by. That one is a black tea, but for the most part, I've actually left black tea aside and gone more to like herbal tea, which I know technically isn't tea because there's no like tea in it. But I think because I drink a lot of coffee now, I want tea that doesn't have caffeine, and I do not like rooibos tea, or however you want to pronounce that. Whatever the foundation of that tea is, I don't like it. So I can taste like whatever that base note is, regardless of the flavorings that are in it. It's not for me. So yeah, sometimes I'll drink white tea. Sometimes I will drink green tea. But I've kind of stepped away from the black tea. And I think it's because other than that one that I mentioned, I haven't found a ton that I can drink just black, because I don't put anything in my tea anymore. I used to put milk and sugar, and I don't do that anymore. So yeah. Next part of her question. Also curious on your thoughts on large pen collections versus a more minimalist perspective. What do you favor? So I'm torn, because when I first started, I never thought I'd have that many pens, and then suddenly I had nearly 100. It was getting insane. And my pen collection right now is insane compared to most people. But I'm sort of stuck in both worlds, right? Because of this, because of you people, because of you guys, I acquire way more pens than I would if it wasn't for this channel. I acquire so many pens, which is why I do pen sales throughout the year. I used to just wait until the Toronto Pen Show at the end of the year, but it's been canceled the last 2 years, pandemic reasons. Supposedly it'll be back on 2022. I just realized my camera is slightly off center. Supposedly it will be back on this year, 2022. I have not decided if I'm going to go, mostly because you have to pay for the table, and I don't know. I haven't decided yet. I want to. I think if I go this year, I'm not going to go as a seller. I'm just going to go as a person going to check it out. Yeah, we'll have to see. I probably won't go as a seller, but yeah, we'll see. So I sell my pens now a lot online. Most of the time, to Patreon crew first, and then if there's anything left over, it goes out into ether, into the rest of the YouTube world. So again, another reason to join the Patreon crew. We've got a Discord team going over there as well, which is awesome. So yeah, my collection's huge. If it wasn't for this channel, I think that having a small, narrowed down collection is better. I think 10 or less pens is perfect. That's ultimately what my goal would be to get to, is 10 or less pens, because I don't like not using them. If you use more than 10 pens, awesome. But for me personally, I would like to get down to 10 or less. And I don't even have that right now. But because of this channel, I acquire so much. And I think when you first start, you should be acquiring a lot, because you have to be able to narrow down your likes before you can have a more minimalist collection. So I think in the beginning, it's awesome if you can, sort of expand and try everything. And then kind of pare down your collection from there. So personally, I want to get down to a minimalist, but I got no beef if you want to have 100,000 of them. That's cool too. So Daniel Roddy, he is my ultimate human on Patreon. Is Parker named after the pen company? The question everybody wants to know. No. Short answer, no. Long answer, possibly. I've never really answered the question, and because the answer isn't dead straight yes or no. Because no, I didn't think, hey, I'm obsessed with Parker, the company, let's name my cat that. But I was really into the Parker Duofold around the time I got her, so potentially that name kind of was in my brain sphere. At the time when I was coming up. I had a whole list of names, like Aurora was one. That specifically was for the Aurora one. Of course, the typical cat names like Ginger and stuff like that, but I didn't want a typical cutesy cat name. I wanted like a human name. And because again, I don't mean to keep plugging Patreon, but I did write an article on Patreon that explained the whole backstory of how I got Parker, which is a complicated thing. But let's just say I went through potentially many cats before Parker. And so I didn't know if my cat was going to be a boy, a girl. So I tried to like choose something maybe that was like unisex, because I didn't want to fall in love with a name and then have to turn down a cat because the gender was wrong. And just no. So unisex name. Don't really care gender one way or the other. Did not matter to me. So Parker was just one I kind of landed on, and it fit. And ironically enough, my favorite superhero is Peter Parker. So it just kind of fit, and I landed there. So is she named after the pen company? No. Was that name probably somewhere in my mental sphere because of the pen company? Possibly. So it's a bit of a complicated answer, but I'll say blanket, no, she wasn't. We'll leave it at that. Luna Wolf Games, awesome name, by the way. If you could only buy from one pen brand for the rest of time, what pen brand would you choose? Personally, I would choose TWSBI. That is a hard question. I struggled with this one because I wanted to say like Leonardo, because they make some crazy editions like that just absolutely blow me away. There's gold nibs, there's steel nibs, there's like a lot of choice there. And then the other part of me said Pilot, because I mean, heck, 2 of the top 5 pens that I have are Pilot, and I could have put a third in there because I really like the 74 custom 74 as well. But I decided not to. I decided ultimately to go with Kaweco. And the reason why I did is because, yes, you can get gold nibs, but the reason why I did is because I thought more practically. If I'm only buying from one company for the rest of my life, then these are not that expensive. These are not that expensive. They come out with like 3 or 4 different, colors each year. So this is a cyan. This is obviously 2021. Yeah, 2021. The pearl iridescent one that's coming out. Whoo, you better believe I'm getting that one. But they come out with so many editions that I think I wouldn't lose the fun of buying new colors. And because they're not that expensive, I could do it. Whereas any other pen company, it's pretty expensive. So I would probably choose Kaweco, specifically for the sport style. I do have some of their aluminum ones. I prefer just their straight up plastic sports. So yeah, I think I would choose Kaweco. That's tough though. That's very tough. Okay, this name is a little tough for me to explain, but Klerud, Klerud. Do you have a favorite brewing method for either tea or coffee? Coffee is a Chemex. Period. I do enjoy a AeroPress from time to time, but Chemex is my main go-to. I don't really like French press. I have one, but I hate the sludge. And I've tried like James Hoffman's method of like getting rid of the sludge. I've tried so many. I can't. It's disgusting. So I prefer the Chemex. Gives me a cleaner cup. And I don't put sugar in my coffee anymore. I do put cream still, but I'm trying to slowly back away from every beverage having additional things in, like tea, whatnot, like having milk, sugar, all that kind of stuff. So tea, I'm now straight. Sometimes I'll put honey in it, especially if I've got a little bit of a sore throat. If I'm feeling like I want something super sweet, but for the most part, I just drink it black. And coffee, I'm trying to get the same way. So there's no more sugar in my coffee. That I've been many, many months now with nothing in, but I do still need cream. And Chemex is the only one I think where I can drink black. I cannot do anything else black. But I do like AeroPress if I want something that I consider an in-between Chemex and a French press. If a French press could get rid of sludge, then I think I would like it way more. But I think a French press would be like my fancier one because it leaves a lot more of the oils in it. If I wanted something like to put a little bit of sugar and cream into and sort of make a treat rather than an everyday thing. For tea, you're gonna hate me this. For tea, it's sort of now the same thing as my fountain pens. I got really snooty for a while where I was only buying like premium grade loose leaf, follow exact boiling guidelines like to the letter. And do not get me wrong, that is a superior cup of tea. But I don't care now. I just bag tea, store-bought bag tea. That's fine with me now. Bag tea is so much easier when you're not feeling it and you don't have to like make your own loose leaf thing. If I'm willing to put in the effort, 100% my favorite method is to do a loose leaf free mingle thing, and then I just pour it over a strainer into my mug and then drink it. But I mean, honestly, 90% of the time, it's just a tea bag. I put it in my mug, I put some hot water in it, and I call it a day. I've gotten way less snooty about it. Mostly because I just am straight up lazy. So, yeah. Okay, so the next one, oh my gosh, we're at 21 minutes. Next one, Carol Lowry. I'm relatively new to fountain pens and would like to know how to clean them properly. Have you done a video on this before? If so, just point me to it. I'm always afraid to ask since it seems like a dumb question. First of all, don't be afraid to ask. We all started somewhere. Even myself had no idea how to clean my pens when I first started. Have I done a straight up video? I haven't. So I have done a video on how to clean fountain pens in a couple ways. There's a playlist that I've done that says fountain pens accessories, maintenance and accessories. Check out that playlist. They're really old videos now, but it's still the same. And I've done a video on how to quick clean the Aurora and the Lamy 2000. So you can check those out as well. The same principles apply. But I have done videos on that. Basically, the way that you fill your pen with ink, go in the opposite with just water, and you do that a million times. That's the foundation of how to clean your pen, but that would take 100 million years. So most people use like a bulb syringe or things like that. But I cover those in my videos, so definitely check that out. Also check out Brian Goulet's like Fountain Pen 101 series on how to clean your pens. That's where I learned. That's where like I bet you 98% of people in this industry now have learned. So definitely check out their YouTube videos as well, because they're stellar. And like I said, it's where all of my foundational knowledge came from. So definitely check them out and have no fear. Do not be afraid to ask any question. Nothing is a stupid answer. Question, answer. You know what I mean. Jill Stewart. So I'm going to answer this one and then we're going to take a quick pause. Jill Stewart, is there any particular pen that you wish you hadn't sold / given away? So I have actually done a video of this before, but I don't remember what it was called, and I don't remember if it was buried within another one. Yeah, I'm in my jammies. I'm always in my jammies. I figured if we're going to be chatting for like 40 minutes, we might as well. So yes, there are pens that I regret, not regret selling, but wish I hadn't. And that was a lot of my beginner pens. So like the Kaweco Sports and the, Pilot Metropolitans and stuff like that, because I bought them back. So if like from a financial standpoint, I have sold them for less money, obviously, than I bought them, and then I rebought them again. So it's obviously like I've sunk more money into it. I've sunk a lot of money now into the Kaweco Sports because like, hello. But in a sense, I also don't regret it just because it was a part of my fountain pen journey. The only pen I think that I regret selling is the Visconti Homo Sapiens pen, just straight up regular lava. I sold it because I had a lot of negative connotations with my life moments surrounding when I purchased that pen. And I didn't have a first great experience when I inked it up. And so I just kind of got mad at the pen and I sold it. And I kind of wish I didn't now because A, I want to buy it back. Not that specific pen, but like buy that pen back. And it's not a cheap pen. And B, because looking back on the experience I had with it, like I probably put the wrong ink in there. I didn't have the patience to like test it out. I'm pretty sure that like I didn't spring the tines, but like I didn't treat it right. So it's more that I'm frustrated with myself that I gave up on that pen, than actually like regret selling the pen. But again, like you can't undo, what you've done. I've never sold a pen where I'm like, oh my God, like I'm so upset that I got rid of that pen. Like I want it back, there's no like limited edition pens or anything like that I've sold that I can't buy back now if I want, that I regret selling. There just isn't. I think when I decide to let a pen go, I'm good with it for the most part. Like I said, that Homo sapiens really is the only one that still tickles the back of my brain. Yeah. Okay, we're gonna take this show on the road here and go make a cup of tea because I'm cold now. So Stuart Riley asks, I find that my arthritis in my writing wrist causes me to want to use a heavier fountain pen. Suggestions on what pens to use. I shouldn't have put that under this one. So I stay away typically from super heavy pens. I don't like heavy pens. So I don't have a ton of firsthand experience. So people, and now the phone's ringing, but we're gonna roll with it because it's real life. So people in the comment section, write down below what your heavy pens are, but typically heavy pens involve metal. I have never filmed in the kitchen with this mic yet. So we're gonna see, I also need to see how far the cord's gonna go. So I don't know what the sound quality is gonna be like in here, but I guess let's find out. So yeah, typically heavy pens will involve metal, like the Kaweco Supra, very heavy pen. How far can I get away with this? This is awesome. So yeah, you're definitely gonna want to do a metal pen, I think. The Karas Customs pens, especially like the copper, brass, those things, those are heavy AF. So you'll definitely want to check out a metal pen. But like I said, I'm going to leave that open for interpretation for the crew in the comment section down below. So guys, if you can comment what your favorite heaviest pen is. Yes, Parker, I know. Comment down below what your favorite heavy pen is. It got too scary. Yes, Parker, my goodness. Yeah, comment your favorite heavy pen down below to help Stuart out. Also, Stuart, do you need a big grip size? Because I don't know if like arthritis, if that helps as well. Because I think having a bigger grip size would help. Susan Barrier, does your handwriting style change depending on which pen you use? Do you prefer a certain pen for a certain style of writing, caps versus cursive, block versus bubbly? As far as the certain pen goes, not really. Like the only time like I will choose a pen based on what the writing I want to see is if it's like a flex style. But that's about it. I don't really choose pens for my writing style, mostly because I just write cursive. I do notice though with the Pilot Custom Heritage 912 Falcon nib with the ebonite feed, that my handwriting changes dramatically with that pen, only because it is so soft that depending on my mood, if I'm happy, sad, sick, angry, whatever, like I'll notice a huge difference in my writing after the fact, but I don't go into it intentionally. The only pen I used to have, which I've since sold, was a Platinum 3776, like Kumpo or something. I don't remember. But it had an architect nib. That I like to use for cap locks, but I sold it because I never used it, to be honest. I just never used it. I just got the architect grind because I thought it would be super cool. And it was for a little while. It was a good experiment phase, but it's not for me in everyday life. So that one I preferred for like block letters, but for the most part, for my journaling, cursive writing, just everyday regular. What changes my writing more than anything is just my mood and how quickly I'm writing. Okay. Najib asks, do you write differently with your fountain pens versus other writing instruments? I typically write in god-awful print with a ballpoint, rollerball, or Apple Pencil, but feel obliged to use cursive and write more neatly with fountain pens. Yeah, I would say I'm pretty much the same. But it's also, I think, intentionality, right? So when I sit down with my fountain pens to write, I am choosing to sit down and use my instruments and write. Whether that's just messing around in a journal like for shoots and giggles, or whether it's actually like a proper journal session, write a letter, whatever. Like I am choosing to dedicate that time. If I'm using any other instrument, it's not my intention to write. Writing is an afterthought. It's scribbling a note for a coworker, or scribbling a note being like, don't forget to check this at work, or like, it's just an afterthought. I'm not choosing to write. So yeah, I pretty much, like, if I'm not like sitting down with my fountain pens and writing in cursive, then pretty much for the most part, it's a scribbly chicken mess of cursive and printing. It's super messy, super gross. Don't recommend it. Okay. David Browning, he has a couple questions. What characteristics do you use when selecting a new to you pen? That I have done a video of. It's what I look for in fountain pens. So check that out because it's a long video. Being a right brain person, I tend to select pens based on their visual and tactile attractiveness. I.e., I was merely attracted to the Platinum 3776, but didn't feel my heart go pity-pat until I saw Dave's review on Fig Boot featuring a 3776 in Chartreuse Blue. I had to have one in that color. Yeah, that happens to me sometimes too. Like I said, check out that video because I go into pretty long detail about that one. How about paper beyond Tomoe River or Clairefontaine? For my dietary journal, I use a Leuchtturm 1917, and for my general purpose journaling, I use a journal produced by Peter Popper Press of New York. My two choices are selected as being fountain pen friendly within my budgetary parameters. So yeah, I am a Tomoe River whore. Let's just say that. I don't like Rhodia or Clairefontaine or things like that because they have like this coating that produces a drag. Since I use Tomoe River, that there's no drag on that paper, I haven't ever found anything that writes the same. And yes, it is way more expensive, but to me it's worth it. Again, to that intentionality piece that I just touched on, I don't use that paper outside of like when I sit down and write. So to me, it's worth that money. I don't use it like at work where I just like kind of toss things away. So that helps. But I did recently just get a journal from Galen Leather Pens that has Cosmo Air Light paper. That does have a coating on it that produces drag, just like Rhodia and Clairefontaine. But the results of the look of the ink and everything is very similar to Tomoe River paper. Tomoe is still the king, just is. But I really do like Cosmo Air Light. And I'm in the market experimenting now with other papers to try and find my new paper. I do like Leuchtturm. I've had some Leuchtturm journals. They're totally fine. They're a little more absorbent than I would like. Because I like my pens to be exceptionally wet, it's a little more absorbent for my liking. So as far as like budgetary parameters go, I don't really have anything that I use. Pretty much I use Tomoe River paper. That is what I use. Like I said, right now I'm using Cosmo Air Light in my journal, but I am on the hunt. If that changes, I will let you guys know. Glenn Kelly asks, what would your dream job be, and would it involve fountain pens? I mean, my dream job, I would love to be a full-time YouTuber. I'm just getting some tea right now. This is my tea cupboard. I would love to be a full-time YouTuber. I don't think it would ever happen, but that would be great. I'm just gonna choose the worst of the worst as far as like quality goes. It's not very good stuff. It's just tasty. I would love to be a full-time YouTuber. I would love it if I could make videos every day about pens, ink, books. Like I would just absolutely adore it if I could. But it will never happen. I make pennies, so I can't. This is my favorite mug, by the way. So I never could. Would it involve like fountain pens in the sense of like, yes, Parker, my goodness. Yes. Would it involve fountain pens as far as like, like writing with them every day? Well, obviously, since the channel would. Yes, babes. Yeah, you want to say hello to everybody? Do you want to say hello? She hates being picked up, so. Yes, you do. Yes, you do. You don't like it at all. Yeah. Yeah. Mwah. Okay. So yeah, it wouldn't necessarily like involve fountain pens as far as like, writing with them like in a business. But I would adore if I could be a full-time YouTuber, but it's never going to happen. So yeah, I think also even if I could sustain it potentially for like a couple years, it's just not a sustainable job long-term. So I would still have to find something else, but I would love it. And I want to work from home. I do. I know a lot of people don't, especially with everything that's been going on, but I would love to be able to work from home. The job that I have now, there's so many things I love about it, but it's still like, retail-esque in the sense that the hours are weird and I don't get paid enough for what I do. Okay, what software, Rebecca Logan asks, what software do you use to edit your videos, and what is your video recording setup like? So, software, what software? I just use iMovie on my Mac. So nothing fancy there. I've been using that since I started this channel. What does your video recording setup look like? Well, now I have a lav mic that I strap to my chest that just plugs into my phone, which I use to record. That is on a very, very basic tripod that came with the light, but I don't really use it because it's super harsh and it's also out of battery power. So it's very basic. It is very, very basic. That's part of the reason why I wanted to set up a Patreon account, is because I want to invest more time and I want to amp up the quality a little bit. I want to be able to get a better camera, better lighting system to show you the pens and the ink quality and all that kind of good stuff much better. But camera equipment is absolutely absurd on how expensive it is. And not only do you have to get new equipment, but then you have to learn how to use the equipment and all that kind of good stuff. So it's an investment, and that's part of the reason why I have the Patreon account. So super, super basic. I film on my phone with a basic mic now that plugs into it on a cheap tripod. Yeah. Aaron C. For me, the feeling of unscrewing a cap or posting makes a huge difference in how I feel about the pen. How much of your enjoyment of using a fountain pen has to do with the tactile experience of handling it outside of actual writing? So, I mean, obviously the bulk of the experience is the writing, but there are absolutely factors that play outside of that. I don't post my pens, so I can't speak to that. But I will say I love holding the cap in my left hand as I'm writing. So the feel of the material is a big one. The sound of the cap going onto the pen when you like screw it to close it and then coming off, obviously, is a big one as well. To your point, TWSBI, for example, amazing. The sounds that it makes, I absolutely love it. I don't really love the writing experience, but I love the sounds of it. Dynamite. The Queveco Sport, absolutely love the sound and the feel of capping and uncapping. There's so many things that go into that. So it is absolutely a factor. It's that extra, I think it's the cherry on top. The actual sundae has to be there, but if you can give me that cherry too, I'll be a fan forever. Joan Worthman asks, I'm wondering if you're going to cover Ferris wheel press. I understand they've started putting out inexpensive fountain pens in addition to ink. Also, they are a Canadian company, which might be nice for you. So I've used a lot of their inks. I like it quite a bit. I have Jelly Bean Blue currently inked up in my Visconti Homo Sapiens Midnight in Florence. I adore their inks. Not a lot of their inks are my style. A lot of them are very light, watery, not very like deep and saturated. And they do have a lot of shimmery inks, which I don't like either. So I really only like about 10% of their inks, but that's not because they're bad. It's just because they don't suit my style. I really like their Candy Marsala. It's like a red ink. I really like that one. So I use their inks quite a bit. I've never used their pens. I'm aware of them. I will be blatantly honest and say I'm sitting on the fence right now that says I probably won't review them unless they're sent to me, mostly because for what I can see visually, there's nothing that justifies the price. I do not want to spend that much money on what I can see being offered to me. Doesn't necessarily mean that these aren't like phenomenal pens. Like it took me, oh my goodness, like 2 years practically to buy a Benu pen because same thing, visually from what I saw was not worth the price for what they're listed because they're not that cheap. But I finally did buy one. I bought the Euphoria Bourbon and I flip and love it. So it doesn't necessarily mean that it's not a bad pen or a good pen rather. It's just that's where I'm at right now. So if I were to test it out, it would have to be sent to me because I'm not interested in it currently. But yeah, honest opinion. Deborah Duncan, I'm new to tea. Suggestions on how to make it so I can taste something other than just hot water. Definitely try multiple varieties across the spans. So green tea, white tea, black tea, herbal tea, all that kind of good stuff. Black tea will definitely be stronger as far as give you more of like a bitter taste profile if you are a coffee person and you're heading in that direction. If you don't like coffee, then I would say stay away from black tea. Go more to like white tea, green tea, herbal tea. How to make it so you can taste it, you're gonna have to spend a little bit more money. Tea is very much what you put in is what you get out. So kind of what I said earlier, likely in what is now going to be part 1 of this video, because this is going to be an hour-long video. You're going to have to get loose leaf for sure. If you can find like a place like by you that sells tea, that is like a tea emporium, go there and sample a lot of teas. You can smell a lot of teas. You can talk to the people that work there. But yeah, get a loose leaf tea. You can get these like little contraptions that where like your tea can kind of brew with the water free flowing, so it's not contained. and then it just kind of like sits on your mug, and then the water flows out and it's all stuck. All the loose leaf is contained. That's probably going to be the best. And then whatever tea you do decide to get, follow the instructions on it, and then play around with the brew times. So the, cheap dirt floor sweeping tea, which is literally what this is, it's just the floor sweepings dust tea. I steep this for like 5 minutes to get a little bit of flavor out of it. Whereas like loose leaf, I steep for 3 to 8, depending on what it is. So that's a complicated question that you've got, Deborah. But my biggest recommendation is, find a tea place near you that you can go to, that you can smell. And then just try and get like little samples of each, and then brew loose leaf for a while. That will help for sure. Oh my gosh, was that it? Did I just run the whole gambit? Huh, I did. Okay, I didn't even know it, but that was the last one. Wow. Okay, well, thank you very much for sticking around and letting me do this. Thank you to everyone on Patreon who've been supporting me, who submitted all of these questions. Like I said, this is a two-parter video. If it's not a two-parter video, then it's going to be like near an hour, but who knows? We'll see. If you want to join the Patreon crew, check the link down below. Check out my Instagram. I post there fairly often now. If you like this video, hit the like button. If you want to hit the subscribe button, it helps out a ton as well. Guys, leave comments answering anything that I have answered as well in the comment section down below, based off of what you think. And holy moly, guys, I'll see you next time. Bye.